I'm willing to testify. I'm just gonna tell the truth.
But what is your truth?
Could he have gone there that night for some reason?
Are you actually accusing our son?
Should this come to light, it is game over.
You discovered Elena, Elvis. You didn't call the police?
I panicked, you see, I panicked.
Can you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? The whole truth and nothing but the truth?
You should be ashamed!
Please answer the question, Doctor.
Welcome back. The truth is finally out there. Isn't hindsight a wonderful thing? Now that we've come to the end of the story, I'm sure we can all see the signs along the way.
And people becoming obsessed with him, he fed off that.
Jonathan Fraser, count.
Could he have gone there that night for some reason and seen me with her?
I lost someone I love.
So did you believe Jonathan's lies? I don't know about you, but with each new episode, I was suspicious of a new character, from Grace to Jonathan to Henry, Franklin, and back again. But did you guess right?
That can happen. We can just lose ourselves sometimes. We become, other. Could be panic or anger or love sometimes. We lose ourselves.
So what were the signs of Jonathan's guilt? One of the signs for me was seeing Jonathan's complete lack of emotional response when he sees Elena at the fundraiser. For someone who had been having a relationship with that person in secret for a significant amount of time, you might imagine that that would trigger the stress response in someone, or quite strong emotions that they would be difficult not to leak. But Jonathan copes with that very well. Another sign that sets off those alarm bells ringing is when we find out that Jonathan didn't have a family dog die, but it was actually his younger sister.
I didn't kill the family dog. We never had a dog. I had a sister. I killed the family sister.
It's quite worrying that he trivializes someone as important as a sister and the death of a sister into something like the death of a pet or a dog. When Jonathan confesses on national television about his love for Elena and shows complete disregard for Grace's feelings about that, it suggests that there's a manipulation here going on, trying to maintain his reputation in the public arena. One big sign for me is when Jonathan suggests to Grace that their own son could be the murderer. To me, that suggests a complete lack of loyalty and faith in his own son, and is in direct contrast to the loyalty that Grace has shown to Jonathan all the way along.
Are you actually asking me, do I think our son beat a woman to death?
Well, he had the weapon.
No.
He had the weapon.
No.
He was carrying it around with him,
It is not
hiding
possible.
it. He was hiding it for 3 months.
So despite Jonathan's best efforts to keep up appearances, cover up his actions, and turn the spotlight on other people, there were some signs that he was our man. So it's important to point out here that it's human instinct to take things at face value and believe the best in people, especially when we're in relationships and we're in love with someone. We look for the best in those people. We don't spend that time searching for signs of betrayal or indiscretion. Part of being in a healthy relationship means making yourself vulnerable by trusting that other person and not constantly searching for signs that they might be slipping up. Jonathan did a lot of blaming other people, trying to put the spotlight on others along the way, and that's a normal human response. If we feel accused or we feel attacked, we might try to deflect attention away from us because we don't want to feel vulnerable. There's a real sense of desperation in Jonathan's behaviour. He knows he's guilty, but he's willing to blame anyone else, even his own family, to get away with it. Blame is one of the strategies that Jonathan uses. Another strategy that he uses is running away. It seems to happen when everything unravels, the mask comes off, he can't lie his way out of it, and he loses control of the situation. At that time, his stress response goes off, the fight or flight mode, and he has the urge to escape. So he runs away, and it's almost as if he is using that chance to recenter himself, focus on his new strategy and his new set of lies so that he can come back and start again. This is a normal human response. We all have what's called a locus of control. So when we feel that we are in control of our destiny, we feel safe.
Dad, the light is red, Dad. Dad, it's a red light. Dad, Dad!
When we feel that that control is located outside of us, that triggers that fight or flight response, our survival response. So we either have the urge to fight off that threat or run away from it. So when we do run away, that enables us to survive, it enables us to feel safe again. So that threat response calms down and then we're able to think more clearly again and problem solve. And it certainly seems to be that way for Jonathan. He escapes when he feels overwhelmed, and that gives him the time and space to work out what his next move is. We've seen Grace work through that grieving process through shock and denial and bargaining, trying to hold on to Jonathan in any way that she can.
Good God, Grace. You have always seen things so clearly, seen exactly how they will play out. How can you not see this now?
So at the end, we know that Grace's life with Jonathan is over, and she's going to have to move on with her son and pick up the pieces. So how do people do that after such a big event? And there are a lot of pieces to pick up here. They haven't only lost Jonathan. They may have lost friends, Grace may have lost her job, and they've lost their identity within their social circles.
I don't think you should be here.
What?
I think for the good of everyone, you don't need to be here.
Henry is at such a vulnerable stage in his life as an adolescent, trying to make sense of the world and his place in it. Losing his father is a huge event that could have a big impact on him. But having a father who kills does not mean that he's destined to go down the same path. He might need lots of support and guidance for many years to come in his life to make sense of what's happened. Now, we've been on a real journey with this series, and while our story is a fictional one, the reality is that those behaviours we've seen can reflect those of real people who experience trauma. So what can we take away from all this? We never truly know what's around the corner, but we can't spend our lives worrying about what may or may not happen. If the worst happens and life does unravel, then we can recover and we can rebuild. So here are some things to consider when you're beginning your journey to rebuild and move on with the next chapter of your life. Grief has no timeline, so don't set yourself unrealistic expectations about a certain date when you should be okay and everything should be fixed. Grief is a long process, sometimes a lifelong process, with ups and downs, so there will be good days and bad days, good months and bad months. The key is to keep going and keep getting yourself back on track. Talk, and talk some more, whether it's a trusted friend, a family member, or a professional. Talking helps the healing process. It allows us to process the emotions that we're feeling, create a narrative, and create some meaning for what's happened so that we can put it in its place in our story and then carry on with the next chapter. Recovery is not always about making things as they were, even though we sometimes want them to be exactly as they were. Part of that grieving process involves accepting things have changed and starting to build something new. So for Henry and Grace, that might include changing location, moving to a different city, making new friends, starting at a new school or a new job. All of those things are part of that process that's going to help in that healing. Getting back in touch with your values is a crucial part to recovery. It's asking yourself, what matters most to me? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to have? For Grace and Henry, that may be about working on their own relationship and their new family setup. And seeking professional help can be really beneficial for recovery. There are some really effective treatments for trauma responses, just like post-traumatic stress disorder. One of the treatments that can be beneficial after a trauma response is talking therapies. Talking therapies can be helpful because creating a narrative about what happened can help us to make sense of the situation. Often after a trauma, memories can seem fragmented and random memories can pop up when we least expect it. And it's hard to make sense of those. being able to tell our story can help us to find a place for each of those memories and make sense of what happened.
Henry! Grace! Henry! Grace!
People like Jonathan are the exception to the rule, so we don't need to start questioning friends and family at every turn. But what a fascinating insight into human beings and what we're capable of. I really hope you've enjoyed the series and our deep dive into The Undoing. Don't forget, you can watch the whole series on Sky Atlantic.